So, Wendy, thank you so much for making time to share your insights about the future of leadership.
Thank you so much, Nick, for having me.
Thank you. You're welcome. And it's great to have you. But before we walk into the future, Wendy, can you tell us a little bit about your background? Where did you grow up?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Thank you. I grew up in Johannesburg, born and bred, spent most of my life there. I was raised by a single mom with one sister, and had a very interesting childhood. Lots of moving around and lots of action. Come from a very ambitious family of go-getters. So I was always surrounded by people who inspired me to seek greatness, to seek to be better, and to always evolve. And then later on in my life, after my advertising career, found my way into financial services, studied throughout my career. I was actually a student for a very long time. I'm still a student, as you know. I'm
Right?
doing my MBA at Steinbeis, the Berlin School of Creative Leadership.
Yeah.
So, just a continuous student of life, Nick. I think that coming from a single-headed household, single-parent-headed household, I was really prompted to be self-sufficient from a very young age. And what that meant was that I was required to study and pay for my own studies as soon as I finished school. So I didn't have the luxury of going to university and being a full-time student. I spent most of my career studying part-time. So I've always been studying. And I have a motto about it. I call it stay schooled. And
Okay.
it's something that I encourage all young people and, even people in their professional careers to stay schooled, stay learning.
That,
So, my background and I guess my foundation is one of always learning, continuous learning. And
that's
here
it.
I am in the mother city in Cape Town
There
in
we go.
financial services. Yeah.
There we go. And maybe that should be a motto for the country. Stay school.
Yes.
Stay school,
Yes.
Sentosa.
Yes. I love that.
Okay, great. So, Wendy, tell us, what was your dream career when you grew up?
So, Nick, like I said, being surrounded by a family of very ambitious people, particularly strong females in my family. Lots of them were teachers, some school principals in the family. So there was always an environment of learning and ambition and sharing of knowledge. And that inspired me when I was younger to want to actually become a school teacher. I obviously didn't become one, but I always saw teachers as torch bearers of knowledge, just because I was surrounded by this, kind of person, seeking knowledge and sharing knowledge with those around me. Um, I also just enjoyed, the working with young people, which I still do today. And I think that changed, further on in my life. I was exposed to advertising.
Right?
Also by a very powerful woman in my family who was also a marketer and went on to pursue a career and owned her own PR agency. She still does. Introduced me to advertising, and I just fell in love with creativity and pursued that as a career.
Now, Wendy, you're leading a very impressive career. You've been working with some of the big agencies, Young and Rubicam, Ogilvy, Jupiter. You then went to Liberty, Coronation, and now obviously Old Mutual. Looking back over your career, would you say there was a turning point?
Nick, I think there were many turning points. I think there were many. What I do know is that the biggest lesson for me was getting to know myself. And a turning point that really enabled me to pivot into authentic leadership was doing the Enneagram. I'm not sure if you know the Enneagram.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, it's a deeply reflective tool that really highlights your driving, detracting behaviors from a leadership and self-management point of view. That really gave me insight into the areas of myself that I needed to develop in order to be a better contributor in the workplace, a better contributor from a leadership point of view. It also guided me in how I conducted relationships in my life. And I think it all, boils down to the way that we engage with others, and particularly as a marketer. Communication is the most important thing that we can learn to excel at. George Bernard Shaw has a quote that goes, "The trouble with communication is the illusion that it actually took place." So we often think that we are understood and that we cross clearly, that our expectations are clear, and also that people around us understand what is expected of them. And I think that sits at the heart of what I do every day, is focus on delivering absolute clarity to people around me in what they're required to do. I also, dig deep in terms of providing clarity and seeking clarity, because I think that enables all of us to show up better for each other. It allows us to elevate our delivery. So that's something that's really important in the way that I conduct myself. And I think that was a major turning point for me, was that self-reflection, self-understanding.
Right. And Wendy, what would you say is driving you today?
What drives me today is, my ambition to make an impact on the world, a positive impact on the world. I think that marketers have a profound capacity to impact the behaviors, perceptions of people. And we can be a force for good. And that's what I would like to be. I would like to focus on my impact on the world and those around me. Just encouraging people to step up and to deliver the best that they can. I've really found that taking on an empathetic approach in the way that I deal with people, the people that I lead, the people that I mentor, gives people the space to deliver and behave confidently, and to believe in themselves. I think developing that self-belief in others is something that's really important to me.
That's great. And Wendy, looking into the future, and I know it's a big question, but what does the future of leadership mean to you?
The world is changing so fast. I'm not sure it's just because I'm getting older, but time's flying. And I think that with the ever-changing landscape of media, of technology, all of this, seismic change that we're surrounded by, prompts us to elevate ourselves. And for me, the future of leadership is one where people can embrace uncertainty. I think that we are addicted to certainty as human beings. So enabling environments where people feel free to explore and express curiosity is, for me, imperative for leadership. So embracing change, embracing newness, exploring new ways of doing things without the fear of failure. I really believe that failure can be your biggest teacher. I treat failure as if it's my biggest teacher. And in a previous conversation with you, I said that we are so crippled by fear that we're often afraid to step forward. There's also a nice Nora Roberts quote that goes, "If you never go after what you want, you'll never have it. If you don't ask, the answer will always be no. And if you don't step forward, you'll always remain in the same place. And the biggest barrier for us stepping forward is fear.
I think,
And it,
yeah,
yeah,
I think I saw that quote on your LinkedIn page, right?
yes, yes. I'm,
And
I'm, I'm an advocate for it. Yes,
so maybe we should start a school of failure.
absolutely. Forge forward, forge forward. Failure is your biggest teacher. I also think that, if we go back into the biggest lessons we've learned in our lives, in our careers, they very seldom come from when things went well. They come from learning lessons when things don't work. And I think your biggest challenge is how you actually return from those setbacks, how you actually come back. And that's why I say forge forward. Don't fail forward, forge forward, keep going. It's about teaching those around us and inspiring those around us to keep stepping forward despite the fear of failure.
And Wendy, what have you learned from your own journey that you consider most important for building future leaders?
Things that, for me, particularly coming from a home where I was raised by a single mother, was to always have grit, determination, and commitment to the tasks that you have, to what you sign up for. Always having a filter of being more of a contribution to life. I think as human beings, we have the inherent capacity to uplift and to contribute.
Mm.
So, creating value in every aspect of your life, you know, for your family, for the teams that you lead, for the people that you mentor. I think that being a contribution is most critical. I I'm very committed to community upliftment, and I do a lot of mutual mentorship. I actually work with schools in Cape Town. I completed a very profound course with a group called Partners for Possibility. It's a mutual mentorship program where you actually are teamed up with a principal from schools, and you go through various leadership training programs, but you also focus on elevating the way that schools are run. And for me, that created such an awesome platform of sharing. And I think that that's such a profound reminder for me to be a contribution. And being a contribution is a conscious thing, it doesn't happen by accident. It means carving out the time, making the time to give back, to share your skills, to impart knowledge.
Absolutely. And now, Wendy, these are challenging times as the world is stumbling from one crisis into the next. What is your advice for future leaders in terms of challenges? What are some of the challenges they should expect to encounter in their career?
Great question. Great question. And I think that the biggest challenge that leaders, future leaders will have is being averse to change. Change is the only constant. The only thing that's changing about change is that it's getting faster and faster. And I think the ability to be agile is what will set you apart. So being open to exploring and being open to being curious, reinventing yourself before someone else does.
Mm.
I think that there's so many jobs that because of AI and digital transformation will become redundant. And I think we will allow that to happen to us if we don't work with technology and allow ourselves to be, evolved. I think that agility is the biggest thing, being, open to change. I also think that balance and self-mastery is important. So seeking out balance, taking care of yourself, taking care of your mental well-being, prioritizing your own growth and development. is something that's conscious. It's something that they need to work on all the time. The biggest one for me in terms of leadership development that I work on with people that I mentor is self-awareness. So, like the tool, the Enneagram, getting to know yourself, getting to know your blind spots, getting to understand your triggers, and trying to, shorten the space in time that, from the time you are triggered or afraid, or, imposter syndrome is something that I often talk about that's real, that faces males and females in the workplace. Overcoming all of those hurdles is what leaders need to do. So getting to know yourself, self-awareness, that needs reflection. What else do you need to be self-aware? You need feedback. So for young leaders, seek feedback all the time. It's the hardest thing to hear negative feedback, but that's the only way you grow, is by seeking the feedback of those around you. Because I think that we get stuck in our own echo chambers often. We feed ourselves with the same information. We follow the same people on social media. It's about expanding those parameters and, the boundaries that we put in place around us so that we're surrounded by diversity. Diversity is proven to increase creativity, productivity. So seek out difference, different opinions, follow different people on social media. Don't get stuck in the echo chamber of being served with the same information over and over again. I often encourage people to follow people that they don't necessarily agree with, just so that, you're exposed to a different take, different perspectives. I think, it's about that constant curiosity to seek self-improvement. And I think the biggest thing is turning that awareness, that self-awareness, into action. So being action-oriented about what you find about yourself, setting tangible goals of self-improvement are also important so that you can actually measure whether you've improved or not.
And Wendy, you mentioned mentoring. As a mentor to future leaders, can you maybe share a success story or two where you mentored an upcoming leader and that person took your advice to heart?
Yes. I think that, I've got a few success stories. I think that the biggest one that stands out is my mutual mentorship with the principal that I partner with. It's a mutual mentorship because I learn a lot from her. And she basically took a school. She manages a school in the Western Cape that's on the Cape Flats, so very impoverished environment. It's a very dangerous area. And what she really did through our mentorship and through the program that we both completed together was that she became so entrenched in the community that she serves in. It's such a troubled community that the police don't go into the community. Ambulance don't even service this community. It's called Tafelsig on the Cape Flats. And she's literally become a beacon of hope in that community. She is fearless in the way that she leads the school. I think that she creates value for the school, for the parents of the school, and the broader community. So she's overcome a lot of fear in terms of, engaging with the difficulties that face the community of Tafelsig. She stepped into her confidence so beautifully. And I think that solving the issue around creating value for the school is the biggest thing. Turning the school into a profit center in the community. So learning how to actually operationalize, finances from a school point of view, raising capital to execute events, that are needed by the school, all sorts of upgrades. I think that was that was a huge success story for me, is mentoring someone that's surrounded by such adversity and trouble, overcoming that through introspection and courage and demonstrating courage. And just to end that thought, Nick, I think that success for me is never ending. It's an ongoing endemic journey of self-reflection and constant improvement. It's not an end destination. It's one where we're constantly evolving and improving. And we can't do that without introspecting. We can't do that without feedback. And we can't do that without support. They say no man is an island. I think that surrounding ourselves with people who can support us, people who believe in us, is paramount to achieving this ongoing success.
Thank you, Wendy. And I believe success, the word success comes from the Latin succedere, which means to go after, keep going after.
Yes.
So, Wendy, looking back over your leadership journey and maybe your learning journey, are there any role models of leadership? I mean, you just mentioned one, but are there any other role models of leadership that you would suggest future leaders should study?
Yes. Many come to mind, but I'll talk about one. Satya Nadella from Microsoft. For me, embodies so many amazing human qualities. He is a force for good. He's an empathetic leader. He also has a quote that says, success can cause people to unlearn the habits that made them successful in the first place. When we achieve and when we believe we've reached success, particularly in business, we often lose our way and become complacent. And for me, Satya embodies the commitment to ongoing development. He's also very committed to philanthropy, female development and empowerment, innovation. He's a pioneer in technology. And I think that the people at Microsoft are evangelists for his leadership style. So I think that he's introduced change at the helm of that business. That's just admirable. Just a great guy all around.
Absolutely. Now, Wendy, how can our listeners connect with you and where should they follow you?
So the easiest way to find me is on LinkedIn. And that's where I mostly engage professionally.
Right. And last but not least, Wendy, what is your message for the millions of learners out there who are now looking to leave school, to start a career? What are maybe one or two success factors they should keep in mind?
There's a one-liner. I think it's to forge forward and create opportunities without being addicted to certainty. Forge forward. Embrace failure. Make failure your biggest teacher. That would be my lesson to young people, future leaders, is to embrace that because it's going to happen.
Thank you. Thank you, Wendy, for sharing your insights and your wisdom into the future of leadership and for being a role model yourself, for being such a contribution.
Thank you so much, Nick, for having me.